Rams house. Welcome into a brand new episode of the Rams Report by Chat Sports. My name is Jackson Durham, and on today's episode, we've got a good deal to discuss. The meat and potatoes will be spent talking about our new offensive coordinators, Nate Scheelhaase and Dave Ragone, and who they might target in free agency, specifically at the tight end position. I think there's two tight ends that have spent a little bit of time with both of these guys that might be very interesting additions to the Rams. So we're going to break both of those guys down, what they would bring to the Rams, and whether or not I want LA to go out and sign them. But before we get into that, we've also got a little bit of breaking news to discuss, or at least a breaking rumor to discuss, if that's a thing. There's a report that came out as I was sitting down to film this video from CBS's Jonathan Jones that the Rams have proposed a rule change at the upcoming NFL owners meetings. Now, because this hasn't been officially proposed, we just have kind of sourced information that it will be proposed. We don't know exactly what the details of the rule change are, but we do know, according to the source, that it pertains to the outcome of the Week 16 game against the Seattle Seahawks, or at the very least, the play, the two-point conversion, the controversial sequence where Sam Darnold had the backwards lateral, what was ultimately ruled a backwards pass, or lateral, I guess, that was tipped by Jared Verse and then recovered in the end zone by Zach Charbonnet for what they ruled a successful two-point conversion attempt. Sorry, weird explanation, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about. It was a weird play. It's hard to explain. The Rams want to ensure that that never happens again. And I absolutely agree. That was a enraging sequence for Rams fans. It was a baffling sequence, I think, for even third-party fans. If you were just watching that game as a neutral observer, I imagine that was a bizarre sequence. It was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen watching football, and I have watched a lot of football. But again, we don't know exactly what the Rams are looking to propose as a change to the rules that would have prevented what occurred from occurring. CBS did a little bit of speculating. Here's what they said. One can speculate as to what changes the Rams are seeking. Perhaps they wish to apply the fumble rules on a two-point try to a lateral that has been touched by the defender and goes forward. Or they want to have a time limit for a review to be initiated. The change could be related to the ball being possessed after the whistle blew, or it may seek a clearer definition of what immediate continuing action is, or it could also be none of these. So kind of admitting that, again, we really don't know. If I had to guess, I would think it's most likely going to be related to that third point that they made. The change could be related to the ball being possessed after the whistle blew. I think that's kind of your strongest argument here, right? Like, I go back to that sequence. Charbonnet didn't even pick up the ball because he thought he could score a two-point conversion. He picked the ball up to hand it to the ref because the whistle had been blown, and everybody on the field, Seahawk and Ram, thought that the play was over. And it's just baffling to me. And I know, like, people talk about the broadcast booth calling down, and that's not as unusual as I think people want to act like it is at the end of the day. I'm as biased as you guys are, but at the end of the day, we had opportunities to win this game. I don't think you could say that play alone cost us the game. We missed a 48-yard field goal. We lost in overtime because they drove down the field and scored a touchdown and then got the two. You know, at the end of the day, that's what happened. You can't deny that. It's just as bad as the Saints fans that deny that Drew Brees' interception in overtime is what actually cost them the NFC Championship game all those years ago, and not that missed pass interference call. We got to be honest with ourselves. In the same way, Saints fans have to be honest with themselves. Love you, Trizzy. But I think this is a bad sequence. It's bad football at the end of the day. And although it was true to the rule book then, I don't think it should be anymore. I don't think teams want to... I don't think any team wants to be on the receiving end of a moment like that, where the whistle has been blown and then somebody's picked up the ball in the end zone, and now suddenly you have a successful two-point conversion attempt after everybody on the field thought it was not, and you were lined up to kick a field goal. It just doesn't really feel right at the end of the day. And again, I know if you're a Seahawks fan, you're in the comments right now commenting, but you had an opportunity to win this game. You missed a field goal. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not making excuses for the Week 16 loss, but I don't think that this should continue to be the standard for the NFL. I think rules do need to be changed here so that this circumstance is not repeated in the future. But I'm off my soapbox about Week 16, about games that happened last season, about things that do not help us progress into 2026, things that do not help us go win Super Bowl 61. That is what we care about right now, and maybe that rule change will down the line, but at the end of the day, we're not going to talk about Week 16. We're going to talk about Nate Scheelhaase and Dave Ragone right now. And two guys that they might go after, two guys that they've worked with in the past that I think might be interesting targets for them, starting with number one, Kyle Pitts. And I know, we're doing tight ends again, which a lot of you guys are going to be like, why? We drafted a tight end in the second round last year. We have Colby Parkinson on a strong contract. Davis Allen is still around. Even if Tyler Higbee does decide to retire, why do we need to continue adding at the tight end position? Why has that been such a focus? Because 30% of the Rams snaps in 2025, more than double any other team in the NFL, were run with 3 tight ends on the football field in what they call 13 personnel. That's the highest in the NFL. It is such a point of emphasis for this Rams offense to be equipped with more than 2 tight ends, to have 3 solid tight ends that are out there on the football field that can all play together. It makes you very multiple as an offense. It makes you very versatile as an offense. And I think the Rams love to keep people guessing in these formations. They love that they can be as multiple and as versatile as they can out of these looks and have 3 tight ends that can contribute. So I do not expect them to just kind of ease off of that. After it worked so well last season, I don't expect them to go away from it. I expect them to continue to be aggressive and recognize the fact that, hey, Tyler Higbee was a contributor in this room last season. Even though he's not the guy, at least at that point, he wasn't the guy that he'd been throughout his career anymore. Injuries had really started to catch up to the Hig-Rig. We know he still contributed last year. And you're going to have to replace that production. You're going to have to replace that guy. Is Davis Allen ready to step up and be that guy? I don't know at the end of the day. Maybe he is, but I would feel a lot more confident if I'm the play caller for this offense, Sean McVay, having a third option. So maybe I go to my new guys, Dave Ragone and Nate Scheelhaase, as my new offensive coordinators, and I go, look, you guys worked with a fantastic, or Ragone, you worked with a fantastic tight end in Atlanta and Kyle Pitts, who's set to hit the market. Should we bring him in? I think Dave would absolutely say yes, that would be someone we should go target. And for good reason. Kyle Pitts was awesome under Ragone in Atlanta. In 2021, when Dave was the offensive coordinator and Kyle Pitts was a rookie, he went over 1,000 yards. He made the PWFA All-Rookie Team, the Pro Football Writers of America's All-Rookie Team. He was a PFF Top 100 player in the NFL, and he was the first rookie tight end, since Jeremy Shockey to be selected to the Pro Bowl in over 20 seasons. Huge season under Ragone, his rookie year. And then 2 more solid seasons, one where he was really kind of knocked off course by injury, and then another decent year. And then after Dave leaves, 2023, final year with Dave in Atlanta, 2024 is the worst statistical season of Kyle Pitts' career. Gets back on track in 2025, mostly when Kirk Cousins came in and took over that offense for an injured Michael Penix, but there's a track record of success between these two guys. I would be willing to bet, I don't know for sure, that relationship is strong and that it's still there, that they're still in contact. There's still something going on there. They worked together for a long time. I think it would be an interesting target. I could absolutely understand why you might want to go down that road. But the thing that keeps me from being fully sold on the idea of Kyle Pitts actually has nothing to do with him as a football player. It actually has nothing to do with the connection with Ragone and how strong it may or may not be. I think all of those things might be true. I think he might be a fantastic fit for our offense. I think he could be a really productive player in LA. But then I start to think about Puka Nacua and the mega deal that is waiting in just a couple months for that guy. That guy's going to be making $40 million annually, at least, for the next 4 seasons. Do you want to contribute another $15 to $17 million to another pass catcher in Kyle Pitts? I don't know. At that point, that's just a lot of money at that point. It's going to limit your other options. I think you have to be smart before you get the deal done for Puka. Which is why if I'm the Rams, what I'm doing right now is getting the deal done with Puka. I'm calling Puka today to bring him in and sitting him down and being like, how much do we want? Let's sign the deal today before Jackson Smith-Njigba gets his contract and ticks that market up even higher, because you know either of these guys, whoever signs second, is going to want to beat the other's deal. So don't sign second. Sign first. At the end of the day, you got a chance to beat the Seahawks here. Put them in a little bit of a jam. Make them pay JSN more money. Let us catch a little bit of a break on Puka's contract because JSN hasn't come in yet. At the end of the day, I'm not saying cheap out on Puka Nacua. It's going to be the difference of maybe $1 million annually at the end of the day between these two guys. But that's $1 million that could go in other directions on your roster, and every penny is going to be important when you are committing as much money as you are to a guy like Puka Nacua. And so for that reason, until we get the numbers in, until we get that deal done with Puka, it's very hard for me to get super excited about committing astronomical money to a tight end who may be dwarfed in this offense by Puka. Obviously, Puka's always going to be the volume guy for this team. So does it make sense to commit as much money as Kyle Pitts would likely want to him when at the end of the day, his production is always going to be limited by the fact that he's on the field at the same time as the best receiver in football, in Puka Nacua, who we still have to pay exorbitant amounts of money to. And speaking of money, we can save you a little bit on your purchase of a Heart Snatcher t-shirt. They're not quite available yet. The very first merch run on the Rams Report by Chat Sports will be out soon. They're these awesome t-shirts right here featuring our guy Matthew Stafford, and a bit of a reference to that wild card win where he told Devontae Adams, let's go snatch these guys' hearts. Shout out to our design team. Arnold did a fantastic job putting these together. I think they look great. And when you fill out the pre-sale interest form at chatsports.com/heart, one more time, that's chatsports.com/heart, you will get $5 off your order when these are available. So again, that's chatsports.com/heart to fill out the pre-sale interest form to get $5 off your Heart Snatcher tee once they are available. Don't miss out on this. It's not going to be available forever. Once the shirts are up for sale, the $5 off offer goes away. So let's get into target number 2. Target number 1, Kyle Pitts, connected to Dave Ragone. Target number 2 is connected to Nate Scheelhaase from his time coaching at the college level at Iowa State. And this was a couple years ago, but Charlie Kolar. So he was in that 2023 draft class along with 2022 draft class, along with Isaiah Likely, both selected by the Baltimore Ravens, but coached by Nate Scheelhaase during his time at Iowa State. They had a good deal of crossover, and this dude was fantastic at Iowa State. He is also, shout out to Blaine Grisek for pointing this out on Twitter, but super, super similar to Tyler Higbee. Physically, 83.3% athletic match to Tyler Higbee. Played at Iowa State from 2017 to 2021, all of those years of which Nate Scheelhaase was there coaching. And he was a guy that when I was doing my scouting during this draft class, I remember loving him. And it's because I'd seen a ton of tape from him, being an Oklahoma Sooners fan, which is also a big part of why I am a Rams fan. Shout out to Sam Bradford. He played against us a good deal when we were still in the Big 12 and they were in the Big 12, and he was great at Iowa State. 168 receptions, 2,181 yards, and 23 touchdowns during his career with the Cyclones. Has not taken off at the NFL level. I'm not going to lie to you guys, he has not really been a ultra productive player. If you go look at just the box score stats, you're not going to be blown away. I don't think he's ever recorded more than 150 yards in an NFL season. But I see that less as a red flag and more as an opportunity. Remember, he's not coming in to be tight end number one for this offense. We're not going to lean on him as a number one receiving option, even at tight end. He's coming in to play that tight end 3 role, to make you more talented in these 13 personnel sets. I do think he's a better player than Davis Allen is at the end of the day. I think Davis Allen has been given more opportunity throughout his career, though, because that's what you got to remember about Charlie Kolar. A huge part of the reason why his production is so limited and why he's going to get a little bit of a better deal than I think his production would indicate is the guys who've been in front of him his entire career in Baltimore are both fantastic players. Mark Andrews, multiple-time Pro Bowl selection, also an Oklahoma Sooner, boomer, and Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina, who they drafted in that same draft class, has really developed into a draft steal for them. I think they got him in the 4th or 5th round, if I can remember correctly. He's been great as well as kind of that heir apparent to Mark Andrews. So it's been 2 fantastically talented dudes in front of Charlie Kolar his entire time at the NFL level. It's really no wonder he hasn't produced because he hasn't been given a massive opportunity to produce. Remember, the Rams run the most 3 tight end sets in the NFL, and they only do it on 30% of their snaps. That's twice as often as the next most frequent, which was Miami at 14%. So he's on the field at like 6 to 7% of these snaps, still had some production opportunities. But what you can take away from that at the end of the day is the deal here is going to be incredibly cheap. You're going to have an opportunity to bring in Charlie Kolar for, I want to say, less than $2 million annually. I think at most you're looking at a 2-year, $4 million total contract for Charlie Kolar. Probably very little of that guaranteed as well. This would be a deal that if it doesn't work out, you could get out of it at any time. But I do think he elevates your 3 tight end sets. I do think he's a guy that Nate Scheelhaase, due to the time they've spent together, could get the most out of and would strongly advocate for. Because unlike Kyle Pitts, this wouldn't be a situation where you'd have to go, I don't know, like this could eat into the money we're going to have to pay Puka Nacua, where that absolutely would. This isn't going to do that. This is $4 million total and $2 million per year. That's in the grand scheme of things, that's pennies for an NFL team. This is, I think, a very low risk, very high reward contract idea for the Los Angeles Rams. I think this would be a absolute home run signing if it goes the way I think it could. Could totally be a nothing burger as well. You could make this deal and it could turn into nothing, but what it's absolutely not going to do is hurt you at the end of the day. I really don't think it can. I think Davis Allen, there's no need for him to go away. It's not like he's eating up a ton of cap. If at the end of the day he outplays Charlie Kolar, we just cut him. There you go. Bye. See ya, Charlie. That's why you guarantee very little of this deal. Davis Allen proves, hey, you know what? I'm actually better than Charlie. Play me instead. Absolutely. Bye, Charlie. Nice knowing you for the couple months that you were here. It could be as simple as that at the end of the day. You could make this contract, guarantee very little to nothing for Charlie Kolar. I don't think he's going to have a lot of bargaining power going into free agency. Again, the production with him has not been great, but I think in the right landing spot with a coach who knows him well in Nate Scheelhaase, we could get a lot out of him. So let me know in the comments. Of the 2 tight ends we've talked about today, who would you want to sign? Kyle Pitts, give me a KP. Charlie Kolar, give me a CK. And I will see you guys in the next episode of the Rams Report by Chat Sports.